Okay, I want to talk about how we're going to set everything up here. As far as we were going to set everything at 0 dB and just test it along the board, but just for testing purposes, it's going to be easier for me to get to what we all really want to know, and that is what's the capability, what's the max ability of each speaker system, and which one is better, which one sounds better, which one has better throw, which one has a better frequency response, which is going to be better for you. And so what we're going to do is, instead of doing it 0 dB, we're going to figure out the maximum output where the speaker starts to clip at. Once the speaker clips, we're going to use that setting, and we're going to do the same thing on both, and we will leave them at those measurements, and then we're going to take all of our measurements from there.
Bassboss DV12 first, and again, this is at limit with pink noise. And down here we have the phonic real-time audio analyzer. We're going to be able to check the decibel level, and we will also check the frequency response, and I'll take a still shot of it as well, and we can later look at that and compare it to the RCF. So go ahead and start firing us up with pink noise. It's about to get loud. Okay, there is 25 feet with the Bassboss DV12. Here is the frequency response graph. We're going to run through each one here just to see where it's at. Okay, now we're going to do pink noise at 60 degrees off axis for the Bassboss DV12. Go ahead, turn. Okay, 99.5 max SPL. And let's run through the different frequencies. So there you have it. This is the DV12, 60 degrees off axis.
The overall decibel level is relatively similar at 60 degrees off axis. If we look at the frequency response of the Bassboss DV12, it's pretty similar along the board until you get into the high frequencies. At about 6.3K and up, we do have a greater than 3 dB loss, but in the lows and in the mid-range, they stay pretty constant and even throughout.
Okay, testing the RCF TT25A-II. Again, it's about 6 feet to the bottom of the cabinet, and we're 25 feet away. Go ahead and boost up the pink noise. Okay, let's take a look here. That had a max SPL of 98. We're going to run through the frequency responses. Here we go. On the TT25A-II, 45 degrees off axis from center. And here we go. Go ahead and run it. .5 max SPL. Let's run through, see what it was producing frequency response wise.
RCF performed differently on its off-axis coverage pattern. There was a greater than 1 dB loss in 2 of the lower frequencies. There was a greater than 3 decibel loss in the mid-range frequencies. And throughout the entire high frequencies from 1.6K and up, there was greater than 3 dB loss.
All right, next test, 75 feet away. This is the Bassboss DV12, pink noise. There we go, about 94.9 dB from 75 feet. You can see the frequency response. I can go through here. This is the TT25A-II at 75 feet away. Pink noise. Let's take a look here. 92.2.
The DV12 put out 94.9 decibels straight ahead at 75 feet, and the RCF put out 92.2 decibels straight ahead at 75 feet. However, it's interesting to note that in the frequency response, throughout the lows, mids, and highs, the DV12 outperformed it in every way. All right, gentlemen, let's get into the final results. I'm very curious to see how this ends.
Okay, first let's take a look at the Bassboss DV12 versus itself. We took measurements 25 feet away, straight and off axis 60 degrees along its horizontal coverage pattern. When we look at the low end, the DV12 did really well from 40 hertz to 160 hertz, maintaining within 1 decibel of each other. If you look at the max SPL, it was reached at 100.9 straight ahead and 99.5 off axis. When we get into the mid-range, you'll notice a 3 dB loss at 630 and 800 hertz. When we get into the high end is where we notice the most loss at 1.6K and 6.3K all the way up to 20K. We do have greater than a 3 dB loss. Overall, I thought the Bassboss did pretty well. Let's see how the RCF does. Okay, let's compare the RCF TT to itself. Again, measurements were taken 25 feet away, 45 degrees off axis and straight ahead. A max SPL of 98 was reached straight ahead and 96.5 was reached 45 degrees off axis. One thing to note here, there was a greater than 1 decibel loss at 100 hertz and at 125 hertz. This loss was not noted on the DV12. When it came to the mid-range, there was a greater than 3 dB loss in 3 of the frequency ranges. On the DV12, only 2 were noted. In the case of the TT, you notice those losses at 200 hertz, 800,
and 1K. I think where the RCF failed at the most against itself was in the high-end frequencies. You have to take into consideration we're only at 45 versus 60 on the DV12. And at 45 degrees, there was a greater than 3 dB loss along the whole spectrum from 1.6 to 20K. What we're going to do now is compare the Bassboss to the RCF 25 feet away straight ahead. We're going to see who puts out more sound at a given frequency. When you look in the low end, it's pretty obvious that from 40 Hertz to 160 Hertz, the Bassboss wins along the whole spectrum. You wouldn't expect that out of a 12-inch driver. When we get into the mid-range, the Bassboss continues to shine over the RCF TT. It wins from 200 all the way up to 1250K. However, when you get into the high-end frequency, and I could notice this as I was listening, the RCF TT definitely shines above there. At 1.6K all the way to 12.5K, the TT wins. At 16K and 20K, the Bassboss wins at that point. Now let's talk about the DV12 versus TT25 off axis at 25 feet. When you look at the two and compare them in the overall max SPL, the Bassboss is at 99.5 and the TT is at 96.5. That is about a 3 dB loss there, or 3 dB difference. So that is an audible difference off axis, and that is at 60 versus 45 degrees when measured. In the low end frequencies from 40 Hertz to 160 Hertz, the Bassboss takes the win. When it comes to the mid-range frequencies off axis, the RCF wins at 630 Hertz, and the Bassboss wins everywhere else. In the high-end range, at 1.6K, the TT takes it. The Bassboss wins from 2K to 5K. At 6.3K to 20K, the RCF TT tops the Bassboss. Lastly here, we're going to look at who wins at 75 feet away. So who's throwing that sound out further? When we can compare max SPL, the Bassboss comes in at 94.9 and the RCF comes in at 92.2. Not quite 3 decibels, but close there. In the low end frequency, at 63 Hertz, the TT tops out the Bassboss by just 0.1, but in every other frequency from 40 to 160, you'll see that the Bassboss is winning. In the mid-range, the RCF took the loss everywhere, all the way from 200 to 1250K. As we get into the high end, the Bassboss from 1.6K to 3.15K takes the win. At 4K, the RCF wins. At 5K, the Bassboss comes back. And from 6.3 to 10K at 75 feet, neither of the speakers were showing up at anything greater than 70 decibels, so it didn't register. At 12.5K to 20K, Bassboss wins there as well. It's probably due to the design of its high-frequency driver. This is going to conclude this video. In the next video, I'm going to give you my actual thoughts as we played music through these two speakers. Not only did we do sound testing with Pink Noise, but we also did hook up real music, listen to different tracks, and got an appreciation for how these two speakers sound. We did it with subs and we did it without subs. So look forward to showing you guys what we found out in that video as well.